everybody, it's Frankie-Lou. I'm coming to you today from the kitchen of the Grow Together homestead, where I am prepping up some more milk jugs for their little snowbank out in the backyard here. But I'm also at the same time conducting an experiment. This experiment actually has been inspired by some of the questions and comments that you guys have put into the channel. So I hope that this is helpful, and I'm really looking forward to the results. So what am I doing today? Well, one of the big issues that people have when they first start winter sowing is overplanting. That might not seem like a big issue, and I know that some folks just sprinkle a whole pack of seeds into the milk jugs. I learned very early that in my case that wasn't a smart thing to do, because what happens is, while that's an easy way to deal with it, later on in the season when it comes time to transplant, you have to detangle a whole bunch of little seedlings. And honestly, a lot of those roots get damaged. So I've always been an advocate for trying to follow the seed directions as closely as possible. But I was thinking, and I know a few of you are thinking the same thing as well, because you've been asking about it, is there a way to divide up in the milk jugs themselves the seedlings so that they're going to be easier to separate when that time comes? As those of you who followed me already know, I'm a huge fan of upcycling. So what I thought I'd give this a try after doing a little bit of research, I'm going to attempt to separate my seedlings in the milk jugs with toilet paper rolls. And you could also obviously cut up paper towel rolls or even the more flimsy wrapping paper rolls. But I thought this would be another great way to do some upcycling. And what I'm doing, because I do believe in science, is I am conducting this as a true experiment with a control. So I am planting 3 different varieties of hardier perennials today. I'm going to put out some more of my black swan poppies. Now, I'm specifically doing these because these ones are notorious, as the seeds are so small, for getting tangled. I thought they'd be a good candidate for this experiment. Some more sorrel, because I can never have enough of that, and some violas. They're an extremely hardy annual and sometimes perennial self-seeder sort of edible flower. They're sometimes called Johnny Jump-Ups as well. And I want to have lots of those because we love edible flowers around here. So what I've done is I have prepared for each of these experiments 1 jug, as per usual, with actually I've done this with all the jugs. I've poked the drainage holes in the bottom, I've opened them up, and I've filled them with 3 to 4 inches of soil. So for each of these things, I'm preparing 2 jugs, one with the toilet paper roll separators and one just as I normally would. And let me show you how I've been playing with it. And myself, I found this is the best way to prepare a jug with a toilet paper insert. As you can see here, a standard milk jug bottom holds 9 toilet paper rolls pretty darn well. So I thought that was also a sign, okay, I gotta do this because it almost seems like it's fate, right? Now, so what I'm doing is I have pre-filled this. My 2 main concerns when I was considering doing this method was that the toilet paper rolls would dry out. I really, really wanted to ensure that there'd be good absorption and wicking going on when it does come to water these jugs later on in the season when we have seedlings. So what I've done is I've actually pre-filled almost to the top a milk jug. Now what I'm going to do is for each of these toilet paper rolls, I'm cutting off 1 inch, and I'm going to do that 9 times. I'm removing any of the excess paper that's still left on the roll. I'm recycling this. I'm not going to reuse it. I'm going to recycle it right away. The other reason I thought this would be good is it is another way. These will hopefully decompose. And from what I've been reading, it is actually beneficial to all that biodiversity in the soil. When I do go to put these seedlings in the ground, having this brown, okay, because toilet paper rolls are a very effective brown for your compost if you shred them up. I think that it might actually be a good thing. And I'm feeling pretty confident about this one, but I guess the only thing we can do is wait and see. But I did want to show this to you just in case some of you wanted to do this experiment as well. If you don't worry, I will share the results at the end of the season when it does come time to see if there's a difference when it comes time to separate these seedlings. And in my mind, I think that it will. I had thought, and I played with slicing them up in the middle so they could just be opened up, but then I found when it came time for filling them and putting them in the milk jug, that really wasn't very effective. So I'm keeping them intact, because my thought is when it does come time to transplant these seedlings, if this is still really, really hard and I'm worried that it's not going to decompose, I can easily slide some scissors in at that point and cut them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 9, put them nicely placed in the milk jug here, and I'm going to start pressing down. Now the reason why I'm doing that is I do want to get a nice bit of soil compacted into the bottom of these before I fill them with the rest of the soil, because I want this to have connection to the bottom of the pot. I want there to be a good amount of soil. I don't want these half empty and loose. I want them to be fully packed in. All right, so if you see here, that's stuck in. Start filling these up with the rest of the soil and popping them into place. I'll be back in a minute after I finish doing that, and then I'll show you the next step. All right then, so I have filled all of these nice little toilet paper rolls with soil that's in here. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm also gonna make sure I fill in the gaps in between. Because remember how I was talking earlier about that absorption and the dehydration? My vibe on this is if I don't do that, these will dry out, sitting out in the hot sun. So I still want this thing to be as full of soil as I can possibly make it. And another thing, yes, this is definitely adding probably a good 5 minutes onto each new milk jug prep that I do. But my thought on that is that's okay, because honestly, one of the most tedious parts, if there is a tedious part to milk jug planting at all, is the separation of the seedlings later. And if I end up with stronger, healthier seedlings that I don't damage the root system on, it's worth that little extra time for me. It doesn't cost me anymore, right? Because I'm just, I'm such a weirdo. I've been saving toilet paper rolls for years, wondering how I'm ever going to use them. And I'm like, I'm going to use them today. So I now have this one, and you cannot just barely see the tops. And I think that's probably the best way to go with this, because as I said, I want there to be good wicking, good absorption. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to follow the directions on my seed packs. Poppy seeds are notoriously tiny, so it's very unlikely that I'm going to manage to just get one in each of these, but that's sure going to be a heck of a lot better than having, and I'm speaking from the experience of many of my friends here, hundreds of poppies in one milk jug. For the poppies, I'm going to plant one like this with the paper towel, with the toilet paper rolls, and one as I normally would. So I'll do that quickly now. With seeds that are this small, and they, as I said, they are notoriously small. Like there's hundreds of seeds sitting there. I'm going to just do poppies are one of those ones that you really just have to do a very light sprinkle in a standard jug. And I basically just press the poppy seeds into the soil at the top of the milk jug. Some of the other larger ones, yes, you do want to use your seed packets as an example of how deep to set them. Here's a little tip that you might, if your fingers are almost the same size as mine, and yes, I don't have a green thumb, I have brown fingers from all the planting. I find that to the top of my nail bed is almost a perfect 1/2 inch. My first digit is 1 inch, second digit is 2 inches. It's worked great for me. It's sort of my green fingers planting system. And it means I don't have to, I'm not gonna have to be too fussy about it. Now I'm just gonna try to get 1 or 2 into each of these little paper towel rolls. I still have hundreds of these seeds. Like poppy seeds are crazy. And I'm really excited about this particular one because they're beautiful. Look at that. And not only that, they're edible. I usually grow lots of bread seed poppies for that reason, but pretty excited about a different color too, the black. So what I'm gonna do also, another little tip that you maybe haven't seen yet, but I have found really great, and I started doing this last year, and I'm really happy that I have. I prepare my tags in advance. Yes, it adds a little bit of time to the process, but it also saves me that time when seedlings come along. And it also helps my planting, because what I do is I tuck those tags up into the handle, and that way none of the seedlings are going to grow up into the handle, because that has happened to me in the past. It doesn't happen anymore, and now I have some tags. And the other reason that's helpful is if for some reason all my other labeling of my milk jug goes wrong, I know I've got tags in there that won't be affected by the elements at all. So I'm going to label on the outside. There's no such thing as over labeling. I think it's March 5th today. I'd like to put the date on because I like to collect my data every year and see when it's the best time to do it. And I label on the inside. I got those tags in there. So that's three kinds of labeling. It's bound to work, right? Now I'm going to use my good old handy dandy duct tape. Again, I want to stress, do not cheap out on your duct tape. Get some decent stuff. Don't get the really good stuff though, that Gorilla. I have Gorilla duct tape around the house for other purposes. But for this, it's almost too strong. It's almost impossible to open those jugs. So it's great stuff, just not for this particular purpose. You want to make sure that you're taping up really well and that you've got good contact. Rub it on there. Get it on there nicely. Leave the lids off. That's a really important one. I've seen a few people put their jugs out and left the lids on, and when you do that, you're not going to allow any of the precipitation to happen, and there's not going to be enough ventilation. You do have to have a little bit of air exchange. It might seem that it's not going to work. It's really remarkable how even with this hole in the top, that these do stay warmer in the spring. So I'm going to keep plugging away at my other little ones here and pop them out in the snowbank. And I hope that was helpful. I hope that was interesting. I hope you'll try it. If not, stay tuned. I definitely will share the results of this experiment, even if it's an abject failure in the spring. So please do keep those questions coming, because it gives me ideas and stuff that I can try. I really appreciate when you guys share your ideas with me. And as always, I hope you'll take this chance to grow together today. Have a good one.